I invite you to imagine that you're walking in the desert. The sun is beating down ferociously, and you're sweating. There's beads of sweat dripping down your face, dripping down your back. It's so hot. And you're walking forward. The dust is gathering around your feet as you walk. And as you walk along in the desert, you notice coming up in the distance, you notice a giant cavern or cliff. It's huge. It's like the size of the Grand Canyon. It's massive. And you walk towards it, walking. And for some reason, as you walk towards it, you begin to feel a strange combination of exhilaration and fear, because you're all alone here in the desert, and it's so massive. It's so huge. You feel the immensity of this canyon. And you walk closer and closer, and the sun is beating hotter and hotter, till finally you come to the edge. And you gather up your courage, and you walk right to the very, very edge, and you peek over the edge. And like little rocks fall over the side, making clicking sounds as they fall over the edge. You're right on the edge. And it's miles and miles and miles down. And your heart is beating. And slowly, you have the thought, am I dreaming? Is this a dream? And you suddenly know that it is a dream. You're dreaming. You're really asleep in your bed, but you're also simultaneously in this other world, this desert world. And you're awake within the dream. You're lucid dreaming. So you think to yourself, wow, here I am. I'm awake in this dream. What should I do? What can I do? And your heart begins to pound a little faster, and you think, I want to fly. So with just a few more seconds to think it over, you jump. You jump as fast and as hard as you can up into the sky. And instead of falling off the cliff, you fly up into the sky over the canyon. And you soar and you fly up towards the sun and towards the blue sky. How does it feel to fly? How does it feel to be weightless and have nothing holding you down? How does your heart feel? You can continue to keep your eyes closed if you wish during this presentation, or you can open them, whichever you prefer. So this talk today is going to be about faith. It's a tricky word, full of connotations, and perhaps for some of us a little bit of religious baggage. I know for me, for many years, that word was tricky for me. I didn't want to go near it. But something compelled me to want to talk about it with you all, so it seems good to talk about. So we all have these cliffs in our lives, these huge canyons, these seemingly scary moments. We all do, all of us, because we're human. So what do we do with that? That seems to be one of the quintessential human questions. What do we do with the fear, and what do we do with those cliffs? Do we leap? Do we hang back? Do we stand on the edge? What do we do? What's right to do? When I think about faith, I also think about the word fear too. It's like two sides of the same coin in a way. Faith and fear, they both start with F. That's interesting. Faith and fear. So these two things seem to be inextricably tied together. Almost, you can't look at one without the other. They're partners in crime, if you will. I like to think about the etymology, the history of words, where words come from, because it helps me to understand spiritual concepts better. So I was looking into the etymology of the word faith, and it comes from different roots. It comes from French and Latin, but the one that interested me the most comes from the Latin, 13th century, and it comes from fides, Fides, which means confidence. Confidence. And I thought, oh, that's an interesting way of looking at faith, because it kind of takes out the dogmatic connotations that some of us have that go with the word faith. Many of us, I was raised in kind of a environment where I had to have faith, but it was almost like this, like I had to, or else I'll go to hell. So it was like weird, kind of like juxtaposition. So they encouraged me to have this sort of blind faith, but didn't really explain to me why, or in a way that I believed or understood. So, but if we think of faith as confidence, that might help put a new spin on faith. So confidence, we're all to various extents aware of what confidence feels like. We each have our own particular things that we're good at. Some of us like art and glass blowing, and some of us like words, like me, I love words, and some of us love Tai Chi and gardening, and we all have our own things that we're really good at. So when we are participating in those things that are our niche, we just have this sense of confidence, like, yeah, I can do this, I can do this. We kind of have our shoulders higher, we feel more solid in our bodies. We feel like, yes, 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 confidence. So if we had more confidence, more faith, what would our lives look like? What changes would we make in our lives? What would our schedules look like? What would our work look like? What would our relationships look like? I love CCL because it's a place that honors diverse spiritual views. There's not just one particular brand of spirituality that's endorsed, and that's one of the things that I really love. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you what you could have faith in or what you could have confidence in, because that's your own decision to make. So for me, for example, I have faith. I'm cultivating faith, cultivating confidence in this notion that the universe is a loving universe. So that's what I'm working on. And I am by no means anywhere near 100% rock solid faith in that. I still have my days where I doubt. But that's my own particular path that I'm going. So what is it for you? Maybe it's, gosh, it could be, there's so many paths, so many ways to conceptualize life. I have a friend who, he's so funny. He's a Taoist, and he's always just saying, like, life is meant to be fun. That's his whole life philosophy in a nutshell. And whenever we're hanging out, he just says, life is meant to be fun, Anya, loosen up. And he just, and that's his spiritual path, fun. Life is fun. And when I first met him, I kind of had a bit of judgment. I was like, that's a bit hedonistic, you know? I had my own sort of judgments upon that. But the more I know him and the more I see his life, I think, yeah, that's perfectly great. That's a great philosophy. He's very happy. He's very chill. He's a lovely, kind human being. So that's his path. And he doesn't always embody that perfectly either. Like, he still is struggling. For example, he works at a job that isn't completely fun. So some days when he's packing up his lunch to go to work, he's like, and I'm like, have a fun day. He's like, I know. Okay, yeah. So he's trying to find the fun within the not fun. That's his path. And he's doing it over the years. He's succeeding slowly over time. So just let's take a minute of silence here, and I want you to go inward. I invite you to go inward and just come up with a few words. What is your core philosophy of life? And maybe it's simple, like, I'm on the yogic path, or I'm on the Buddhist path. It could be already an organized framework like that, or it could be a concept or just a little mantra. So let's take a minute and go within. What is your, at least for now, because it might change later, but what is for now your core path that you're on? Would anyone like to shout out what theirs is?
Meaningfulness.
Love whatever is in front of me.
Be kind.
Consciousness creates. No judgment.
Learning, teaching, gratefulness.
Live joyfully. I am soul, you are soul, we are one in the spirit.
Thank you, everyone. As we work to cultivate the confidence, the faith in our own unique, beautiful path that is like no one else's, even if you have a specific religion or tradition that you follow, such as Buddhism or Hinduism, you do it in a way that nobody else does. So we each have our own beautifully unique paths. So as we work towards building up, growing that faith, that confidence, how do we deal with the cliff? So how do we deal with those moments where we're faced with a choice and we can leap, we can have that faith, Or we can hang back and look over the edge and not do anything. How do we deal with that? And it's easy in lucid dreaming. I don't know how many of you lucid dream. I would love to just see a hand, show of hands. How many people here? Sweet. Okay. So if you don't lucid dream, if you haven't had that experience, just a quick word of advice. All I would recommend is before bed, just lay in bed while you're falling asleep and just repeat, I want to lucid dream. I want to lucid dream. Just like a mantra over and over and over, and it will happen for you. But it's easy in a lucid dream when we know that we're safe and protected, because in that astral realm, we know we're not going to die. So we can jump off the cliff. We can jump out of the airplane. We can run towards the tornado and throw ourselves in it. We know we can do anything and everything, and it's okay. So, but in our waking daily lives, we have often a different perspective on it. We have this fear within us that rises up that seems to threaten to kill us. It's so intense sometimes. And so this fear shifts how we would want to act in an ideal sense. It shifts it. So how can we wake up in our day-to-day lives just like we do in our dreams, our nighttime dreams? A lot of great spiritual teachers that I follow talk a lot about waking up in the dream. That this reality is a dream, just like our nighttime dreams. And once we wake up in this particular realm, then that's the experience of enlightenment. Because then we see that it's all completely malleable and flexible, and ultimately an illusion in the sense of we are connected to God, so we have infinite power. So how do we wake up in this dream? I think that's what we're all working on here, or else we wouldn't be here. And I think that it's a matter of two things. The first is going into our spiritual practices fully and wholeheartedly. So whatever that may be for you, whether it's meditation, whether it's chanting, whether it's service, going to Africa and helping people. Whatever that practice may be, going into it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until the part of you that is ego, that is separate, just dissolves more and more. And then the other part is a flip or a switch of the mindset. So we use the mind to wake up. We harness the power of the mind to wake up in this dream. And it's a bit paradoxical, I think, but it's interesting. So this cliff, this fear, what if we were to greet these cliffs, these moments of fear, these moments of agitation, these moments of yucky, yucky, yuck, with love? What if we could step back in our minds, pull ourselves back from the situation, observe that there's fear happening, and infuse that moment, that situation with love in whatever way we choose to do it, whether it be like just saying in our mind, I love this situation, or just cultivating a feeling of emotional love within the heart. Whatever specific way we choose to do it filling that moment with love. I had a very enlightening experience 2 or 3 days ago. One of my dreams came true. I got the opportunity to have an hour-long Skype conversation with Ram Dass.
Wow.
Actually, an hour and 14 minutes, because he went over time, because he was really nice. And I brought up a situation in my life with my mother. I struggle with forgiveness with my mother. And so I was crying and getting snot everywhere and and wiping off my face with Kleenex, and it was really intense. And after I was done telling my story, there was like a long silence, and he just looked at me and he said, "Love her." That's it. I've had a lot of spiritual coaches and mentors and intuitives and psychics and lots of sessions over the years that went into great detail, but his was such simple. That was it. He just said, "Love her." And then we sat and basked in that thought for a minute, and then he said, "Love your reactions to her." I was like, "Oh man, that's intense." I said, "What if I hate her?" He's like, "Then love the hate." What if I end up crying hysterically? Okay, love yourself in that moment too. So, since that conversation with Ram Dass, I've been really thinking about how for me, right now, in this time in my life, my mother is this cliff. She represents all this fear and anger and separation and just gross stuff that I want to transcend. She represents that for me. And so we all have in our lives these people or situations that come up. And the natural sort of like survival mechanism tendency is to want to push it away, ignore it, deny it, belittle it, say, well, that's not such a big deal, kind of be in denial about it, about its magnitude of awfulness. But actually, what if we made that little mind flip and we said, oh my gosh, this is the perfect moment to love. This is perfect. And really, it's a practice. So, next time I see my mother, I will be practicing this, and I am sure there will be moments, well, maybe I shouldn't say it that way. There may be moments, maybe, that I forget what I'm saying to you all. But maybe not. Maybe it'll be blissful. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a blissful experience. But it's a practice, and it takes time. And we're all on that lovely human journey together of waking up inside the dream, waking up into faith, waking up into confidence, self-love. And it's a sacred journey that we're on because we're conscious enough to even know that we're on it in the first place, which is so magical. So many people live their lives completely unaware of this kind of journey. So we are blessed. So next time you come across that moment where you're filled with fear or anger, and your body is shaking, and you feel lost, maybe you can remember that it's a cliff. And if you choose, You can love. And you can leap off the cliff and soar. Namaste.